Hey friends, welcome back. Today's video is my July book wrap-up where I let you know all the books that I listened to or read in the month of July and kind of give you a brief, not really a review because there were a lot of books, but kind of just tell you what I thought. If you're new to the channel, I hope you enjoy this video. Please consider subscribing and also consider heading over to the Instagram page to follow us over there for more fun and shenanigans. Today's video is a book wrap-up. If you've been around a while, you know I attempted to do some book review videos and I did a few and then I kind of like stopped. So I'm wondering if maybe this format will work a little bit better for me where I only do one a month because I was doing every 5 books. But I use audiobooks and I can get through an audiobook in a day, day and a half, 2 days on average. So I'm going through a lot of books. For the month of July, I listened to 13 books, if that gives you any indication. I'm gonna try it this way and see how this works. Let me know what you think about this longer format. I will not be going into depth on each book, like I mentioned, but I do wanna let you know what I read, what I thought of it, if I'd recommend it, etc. I know I'm gonna get questions, so I use the Libby app to listen to most of my audiobooks. It is free through my library. You can check with your local library and see what app they offer or program they offer for audiobooks, if any at all. So I use that for most of them. I am also doing a trial of Audible. I'll leave a link down below. You can see if they've got any deals going on right now. Sometimes they run a free month, sometimes you get free credits, but I am doing the Audible trial as well as Audible Escapes. There's a slight difference. Audible Escapes is like an add-on to Audible where you get unlimited listening with that program, but it's only select books, and a lot of them are like romance and like young adults. Anyway, there's a lot on there. I listened to a lot of them this month on there and I have a huge long list, but you can listen to as many as you want. Anyway, enough about that. Let's jump into the books for July. Like I said, there were 13 of them. So we gotta get this started. The first book I read was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Reed Jenkins. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I wasn't sure going into this whether or not I was going to like it. It's kind of a period piece where it goes back and forth between past and present. And Evelyn Hugo is an American starlet, and she got into acting when she was very young. And she was very good at it. And it kind of tells about her side of the story as far as like why she was married 7 times. And it's a very, it was really good. I don't know. It was better than I thought it was going to be by far. So in the present day, she reaches out to a reporter and asks this reporter to do an exclusive on her history. She's never sat down with anyone in the past to talk about the ins and outs of her marriages. And so the reporter jumps on it, but she's curious as to why Evelyn reached out to her in particular, and that story unravels as you move through the story. So I would definitely recommend this one if you have not read it yet. The second book I read was My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. I had many of you recommend this to me on Instagram, and it did not disappoint. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. This is a thriller about a husband and wife duo who are serial killers, basically. And they work together to lure women into their trap and then they kill them. The twist here, and it's not giving anything away, but the twist is that the wife is really who's at the helm of this ship, kind of guiding her husband down the road of killing. And it takes some major turns that caught me way off guard, and it just had me at the edge of my seat. Wonderful read. I got through this one very quickly, and I'm so thankful for those of you who recommended it. I see it's very popular right now. 2 thumbs up. Read it. Number 3 is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars also. A little bit on my rating scale. 5 stars are reserved for ones that hit me in the feelings and or are like super unique storylines. 4 stars are the ones that are maybe not quite as like wow to me. 3 stars are what I give a lot of books. 3 stars, if it's enjoyable and it keeps my interest, it's gonna get a 3 star. As you can tell, I'm not like really a critic. 2 stars are okay, I got through it. I would not read that again. I wouldn't recommend it. And then 1 star, typically I don't give a 1 star. If it's less than a 2 star, I typically shelve the book. If I can't force myself through it, it gets shelved, which means that I just stop reading it. at this point in my life, there are too many good books out there to waste my time pushing myself through a book that is not good. So anyway, back to whatever number this was, number 3. So The Kind Worth Killing, this is another thriller. I love thriller books, psychological thrillers. They're one of my favorite categories as of the past few years. This one is about a man who meets a woman on a flight back home, and after a few martinis, they start talking, and he opens up and jokingly says that he wishes he could kill his wife because he suspects or knows that she is having an affair. He is a very wealthy man, and the woman that he's speaking with kind of says, if you want help, I will go ahead and help you. And it turns into this twisted tale of like cat and mouse and who's doing what. It was a very good read, a quick one. Again, I would definitely recommend this. Number 4 was The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapina. This one came so highly recommended by so many people, and I gave it a 2 stars, 2 out of 5. This is one I had to force my way through. Like, I knew I had to know the ending of it. It's another thriller. This one, a married couple has a baby, and they go next door to their neighbor's house for a dinner party and leave the baby at home with the baby monitor on. They get home and the baby is gone. Obviously, the cops immediately focus in on the parents because they're the first suspects, but they seem to have a good cover story. The wife says, you know, they went over every half hour or so to check on the baby. The baby was fine. The wife also suffers from depression and like postpartum depression. And when the cops find out that she was on antidepressants, like they plant ideas in her head that maybe she hurt the baby and she doesn't remember, and it just turns into this whole thing of placing blame here and there. And it had some good stuff going for it. Like, the story itself was good. I feel like they drug it on so slowly, and it just wasn't keeping my attention. I don't know. I've seen a lot of my Instagram, like, book friends loved this one. I just couldn't do it. I forced myself through to the end because I did want to know what happened, but something was lacking, and I'm not sure what. I don't know. If you've read it, let me know what you think because I'm curious. I find that this one, that I'm in the minority. I did not like this one. Number 5, the 5th book I read in July, was If I Was Your Girl by Meredith Russo. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a pleasant read. So this is about a transgendered individual who is starting her life over at a new high school, and she begins to have feelings for a fellow student, and they begin dating, but she is so afraid that her secret is going to come out that in her previous school and life she was known as Andrew, and she currently goes by the name Amanda. There were some parts that were slightly unbelievable to me in some ways, but again, I'm very, what's the word, naive when it comes to transgendered issues and whatnot. I mean, I know the basics, anyway, that's a whole nother subject. I don't know how realistic this was. I believe the author herself is transgendered, and so there is a lot of truth in this, is where like the emotions come from and like where the story stems from. But I feel like part of it, like, for instance, the girl, she's a high schooler and she's already had sex reassignment surgery. I don't know if that would be something that is realistic in a high school aged person. I honestly don't know, so forgive my naivety here. Other than that, the story itself was really good, and it kind of showed the trials and tribulations and the internal battles that Amanda dealt with, and how that came to light with her relationship with Grant, the boy that she is seeing, and how people may or may not respond or think of her if her truth were to come out. So I did enjoy this book. I would definitely recommend it. So 3 out of 5 stars. Books 6 through 10, those 5 books, they are a series. It is the Royals series by author Erin Watt. So book number 6 is called Paper Princess, and I actually gave each of these 4 out of 5 stars. So let me just briefly talk about them. I won't go too into depth. I did read them back to back to back so that I could get like the full experience. So in Paper Princess, the first book, Ella Harper is a teenager who is on her own. She is living on her own. Her mother has died. She spent the last few years of her life taking care of her mother and trying to earn a living any way that she could. Therefore, she was a stripper. She lied about her age and she was stripping for money to help pay medical bills. After her mother passes away, in comes Callum Royal, this rich individual. He's like in charge of an aircraft design company, etc. He comes in with paperwork and says, I am here to take care of you. And she is like thrown completely off guard. So she never knew her father, and her father was apparently Callum Royal's best friend, and they had an agreement between the two of them that they would take care of each other's children if the time ever came. And it talks about how Ella goes from basically trying to make ends meet and living like penny to penny and stripping for a living. She gets moved into the Royals' mansion, basically, where there are 5 royal boys, all the sons of Callum and their late mother. So you got a single father raising 5 boys, and he brings a teenage girl into the picture. And she has a real hard time adjusting at first, and the boys don't want her there, and they think that she's after their money or whatever, and she tries telling them, no, I would rather be on my own. I don't even want to be here. I was doing just fine. I don't need you. And so that was book 1. As you move through books 2, 3, 4, and 5, it expands on that storyline and how she falls in love with one of the boys, and then how the other boys, like each book kind of changes focus slightly, so you're getting a little bit of each of the boys' like perspectives. It was good. It's a young adult like romance series, like that angsty teenage, but I love that stuff. So if you like young adult novels and you have not read these yet, I highly recommend it. Each of them, I will warn you, be prepared when you finish one to have the next one ready, because the cliffhangers on these books are devastating. Like you need more. Like one ended and I was immediately loading up the next audiobook, like, all right, let's see where that goes. Like I couldn't imagine finishing one and having to wait to get the next one. So just a word to the wise, the cliffhangers on these, you're not gonna want to leave time between the books. After I went through those 5 books by Erin Watts, I then went on a Colleen Hoover binge. Colleen Hoover is one of my favorite authors. I read my first book by her was called Slammed. I read that many moons ago, and I've just picked up her books here and there over the years, and every book I read by her just tears your heart out, stomps on it, gently puts it back into your chest cavity after a few stitches and some mending, and sends you on your way. Like, it is a roller coaster of emotions. So anyway, I went on a binge with 3 Colleen Hoover books. So number 11 for the month of July was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This story focuses around Tate and Miles. Tate moves away to go to college for nursing school, and she moves in with her brother. Her brother is an airline pilot, and his next door neighbor is also an airline pilot. So she meets the next door neighbor. His name is Miles, and they don't even really get along. He's very like shut off and kind of cold and doesn't show much emotion. So this book goes back and forth between Miles when he was like 15, 16 in high school, and then current day when he meets Tate. So Tate doesn't see herself falling for him, but she does fall for him, and he tells her right from the beginning, look, I don't do relationships. I can never love somebody again. He's clearly very guarded and shut off, and you don't know why throughout this entire book. The flashback sections kind of start giving you some hints. He was in love with a girl in high school, and it kind of tells their love story. And all was like fine and dandy, but then in current day, he is just a completely different person. And so the story basically unfolds with them trying to stay away from each other because he can't let his guard down to love or be loved again. He feels like he doesn't deserve it. And yet every so often they're like magnets. They just keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And as the story unfolds, you find out why he is so guarded, and then you kind of see how that affects the current day dynamic between himself and Tate. So very good book. Hit me in the heart, cried, laughed, all of the emotions. It's a Colleen Hoover book. The next Colleen Hoover book that I read, so number 12, was November 9th. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. This one is so, I don't even know the word. It's like, it's bittersweet, as many of her books are. I don't know. This is the story of Fallon and Ben. And Fallon, when she was a teenager, so it takes place like a few years after a tragic fire had injured her body and her face. So she had been a child actress, and after the fire incident, she got let go from the show that she was working on. And that doesn't play a huge part in this, like at the forefront of it, but it is a part of the story. So Ben is a college student. He's a writer. I want to say he's like 19. I think they're both about 18, 19. And he intrudes on a lunch that Fallon is having with her father. He kind of butts in, slides into the booth as they're arguing, and basically says, "Hey babe, sorry I'm late," and pretends to be her boyfriend. And she is caught so off guard, but kind of goes along with it because she doesn't want to be stuck in this fight with her dad. And that starts their relationship. The date that they met was November 9th. And from there, they agree that, like, they're both in separate areas. She's moving to New York City. He lives in Los Angeles or San Diego, one of the two, in California. And she is moving, like, that very next day. But they have such a strong connection that day that they meet that they vow to get together again every November 9th for the next 5 years while he writes a book, and he decides he's going to write the book based on their story. So it's very like sweet and romantic, but Ben is also harboring some secrets that he doesn't want to come to light. And when Fallon finds out what he's hiding, it breaks her in a way that also breaks you as a reader. So wonderful book. The storyline itself was very sweet. Like I said, he is just a good guy. His secrets that he's harboring, although they're bad and they're negative, you find a way to forgive because of, I mean, just read it. You can't help but love him. He's like this, I don't know, like nerdy writer boy who has a way with words and teaches her that she's beautiful even though she has external scarring on her face that she's very self-conscious about, and feels like no one will ever look at her or touch her. Or so it was, again, yeah, just go read it. And book number 13 was Confess by Colleen Hoover. 5 out of 5 stars. This one was unique. So Auburn, this is a story between Auburn and Owen. Auburn moves to Dallas. The book starts a few years prior, and you know right off the bat that she is in the hospital with her boyfriend at the time. They're young, 15 years old, and he is terminally ill. And so you get a little like brief picture of that kind of sets the stage, and then it moves forward, and all of a sudden it's a few years later and she is moving to Dallas. It doesn't say why. She moves from like Seattle or Oregon? I don't know, it doesn't matter. She moves from one part of the country to Texas, and she walks into an art studio and gets the pleasure of meeting Owen Gentry. Now, Owen is an artist and the studio is his. It's called Confess, and he allows people to write a confession on a slip of paper and slip it into an anonymous box, and he does paintings based around these confessions. So he hires her on the spot because he needs help that day with a showing, and so she works with him and they kind of hit it off, and there's a lot of chemistry, but she is very closed off to love as well. And she finds out that Owen is actually hiding a secret from her, because what is a Colleen Hoover book without secrets? But the secret that he's hiding, when she finds out, could drastically change something very important to her in her life, which I can't say because it would spoil a huge chunk of it. But it's just a very beautiful, artistic, I can't even say what I was about to say because that would kind of spoil a part of it too. I don't know. I can't say much about it without spoiling bits and pieces of it that are kind of important, and I want you as the reader to find out. But just know that he would do he would do anything to be with her, and she wants to be with him but can't. And so it's like a, not really a forbidden love, but kind of. So hopefully that made some sense and made it sound good, because it really was a good book. It was. So those are the 13 books that I read in July. I'm going to leave links to them down below so you don't have to go searching on your own. You can go ahead and click over and read the actual like synopsis of them and see if it's something that you would enjoy. I do have a Goodreads account. I'll leave that link down below too if you would like to be friends on Goodreads, which is a book, like, not a book service. It's a website that you can log into and keep track of the books that you're reading and want to read. So that's also fun. That's how I keep track of all of my books, actually. My goal this year originally was to read 50 books, and I hit that a month or two ago. And so I upped my goal to 75, and now at the time of this recording, I just finished book number 61, so I'm going to have to up it again. I would love to be able to read / listen to 100 books this year, so maybe I'll just put that as my goal. I don't know. Please drop me suggestions for books that you would love me to read if you think I would like them based on what you know about me. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you later. Bye!